Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to Sessions with Sarah on Helium Radio. Today I have guest Reed Davis. He's the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, which I'm going to have him explain to you right now. It's a super cool concept of dealing with medical, as we all talk about all the time. So welcome and happy Monday to the show, Reed. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you, Dr. Russo.
Thank you. Now, you do functional diagnostic testing. And one of the things that I think is amazing that you do is you talk to people about thyroid imbalances. And instead of treating it like normally our patients would take levothyroxine if they have a blood test and their levels are off, but it never seems to really fully treat it. And you kind of get to the bottom of all that. Is that correct?
Well, like any problem, we never really diagnose and treat a specific thing. We're always looking for all of the constellation of factors upstream that led to that, problem. And so that's what makes us different is we're not diagnosing and treating specific things. We're actually treating everything, every cell, tissue, organ, and system simultaneously. So that thing within that constellation I just mentioned, it just goes along with everything else and gets better.
Mm-hmm. Well, like people who have thyroid issues, like I was saying earlier, a lot of women in their later 30s, early 40s start gaining weight, feel sluggish, and some think it's their thyroid. Would you say mostly what contributes maybe to that, or maybe thyroid issues is maybe the toxins in our air, the added stress? I mean, we're just coming out of a pandemic.
Well, all the above. There's, thyroid's been going on for a long time. I remember asking a doctor about thyroid over 20 years ago, and what were the natural things one could do to restore thyroid function. And he said, there isn't any. You have to take medication the rest of your life. And I knew that was a bunch of baloney. And so in the last 20 years, I've looked at a lot of thyroid and figured out, well, what are those natural things and where's the real dysfunction upstream? And so, but you're right. People typically get, they're tired, they're fatigued, they have low energy. They might get cold or tingling extremities. They have dry skin, hair loss, brain fog, poor sleep. Constipation's a big factor.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You might feel sadder, blue. And then, well, that's a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms that points the finger at low thyroid. And sure enough, so physicians would check the thyroid and go, hey, I'm right, pat myself in the back. I found your problem. It's low thyroid. And here's your medication to treat the paper. It's like, well, we'll get that level back up where we want it. And there's in that algorithm, there's no consideration being given to, well, why is my thyroid underactive? Yeah. And so I've spent 20 years looking at why the thyroid's underactive, and same thing with adrenals and digestion and detoxification and the immune system and every system in the body. Why? What's the real reason? And so, it's environment you mentioned is part of it. Lifestyle is part of it. And that's where the rubber meets the road in terms of reversing your thyroid. Because just taking the medication, you might actually feel better. That's not a bad thing. But does it fix anything that's going on? The answer is no. So I'm more interested in helping the client or patient to fix the things that are upstream than just give them something so that you're happy with the paper. Hey, this paper's looking great now.
Yeah. Well, all right. So say if somebody came to you and they got that diagnosis and then they were put on these medications, what is it that you help them do to get their thyroid in balance? You take a more holistic approach.
Yeah, great question. So we actually look at a number of other factors, including the rest of the hormones. You know, the thyroid is just one part of the endocrine system, right? So there's lots more to it. Let's look at some of the other systems. And we often see that those are failing too. And then we look at the immune system. You can be overactive, it can be underactive. These days, you want it pretty darn active. You know, like you want it hovering in a healthy way so that it can recognize. Now, you also want your digestion to be really well functioning. You've got to be able to break down food, absorb it. You know, it's really about, it's not your diet so much as what you absorb that matters. And then, of course, detoxification is really important. Make sure the liver and the other detoxifying organs are working really well. And so what you could start to see here, because we also work on energy production on a cellular level and nervous system balance, the autonomic, you know, the sympathetic versus when you get all of those things balanced back to the way they were designed, then a lot of problems like thyroid just go away because you've really improved the function of every cell, every tissue, every organ in your body, every system. The entire organism is now an improved human. And so that thyroid that you had, which was really just signals purposefully telling your thyroid to slow down. A lot of times thyroid is that you're under so much stress. A lot of it you don't even know about. It's hidden, it's internal. So the body adapts by what? Conserving resources. How does it do that? It slows down your metabolism because it thinks you're under attack and it thinks, well, we better hibernate and let's keep that fat. And then it has, you know, other effects that we don't like. Again, the thinning hair, the constipation, the brain fog. People can get achy and again, the weight. It's always a big problem for people that can't seem to shake it. And yes, thyroid is one of the organs controlling that, but it's the stress the thyroid's under that is the real problem. And so the real problem is that, and we can look at the healing opportunities upstream from there and do a lot of good with a person.
So when you say you go about healing, what is it you do? Do you look at a person's diet? We talk about this all the time. A big thing I had a digestion expert on is the leaky gut. That's a big thing. You see people advertising that all the time now. What is a leaky gut, and does that factor into all these issues?
Yeah, leaky gut is part of the downward spiral of maldigestion, malabsorption. So typically people will start to have some indigestion, some heartburn, gas, bloating. It could be a little diarrhea, a little constipation, these kinds of things. And they usually just take a medication to make the symptoms go away or get better. They don't really start fixing it. Probably what's going on before leaky gut is a dysbiosis. Again, when we talk about healing and health, we talk about balance. So there's a balance to your good flora. You know, you have good and bad flora in the gut. Right. Matter of fact, there's more flora cells than human cells in a body by 10 times over. You got maybe certain, you know, number of millions of cells in your body. You have 10 to 15 times more cells of this flora. So it needs to be in balance, the good and the bad. It's a lot of it's, we call it commensal. It helps you digest and break down food. And it helps recognize some of the bad bacteria coming in, and it can neutralize it. There's always going to be a little bit, maybe 15% bad bacteria, so-called bad flora. But you want that there because, again, it keeps the immune system in a heightened state of awareness. So that if something really bad comes along, you're able to protect yourself. So the first thing that happens in leaky gut, I think, is stress, causing a dysbiosis.
Sounds like me every day.
Yeah. Well, you know, we know that stress leads to gut problems, right? You feel, you feel it in your gut. It's an old expression, and it's absolutely true. You just start to, different things happen. I can't go into all the physiology and anatomy. It's all in a course that I teach, but now when you have a dysbiosis, then you start to not be able to break down foods very well. You start getting sensitive to foods, and sensitivities to foods starts to break down the little hairs that are on your villi, the villi is where food gets absorbed. There's little hairs in there.
Right.
Well, it starts to break those down. We call it the brush border.
People probably don't realize that there's like hair there that helps.
Yeah, there's little tiny hairs on the little
about.
tiny hairs.
Yeah.
It's the physiology is so complex that when I speak about it, I'm really just giving the simple pictures, kind of like the cartoon version, because otherwise you get over people's heads and they start to yawn and they won't listen. So you have these little tiny hairs on the little tiny hairs, the little fingers, and they break down. Well, they're what help you break down food so they can be absorbed. Right. The enzymes and fat micellization factors and things are in there. So now you get even worse absorption of food. And now, and you start to thin out the mucosal barrier, which is your main immune protector. 80% of your immune system's in the gut. So it's supposed to let food in and good things in, but it's supposed to keep out bad stuff. And it starts to break down. It starts letting, it's not letting in good food, and it's not keeping out the pathogens and unwanted things. So now you've got inflammation, and inflammation opens up the tight junctures in the gut and makes it even worse. So now you've got this pathogenic material, what we call immune complexes, and even food particles kind of coming into your system. Some get caught in the liver, some don't. They get going to the fat and different things. So now you're all inflamed. You've got this. Well, your body knows it's under attack. You're going to end up with leaky gut. And that being under attack is why your thyroid slows down. And so it's there's more to it. It's a little more complex than that, but that's the simple way to understand it. If you're under stress, you're going to have weak digestion and immunity, and you're going to probably have some thyroid problems along the way. Now, it depends on the individual and their weak links in metabolism. And you know this, Dr. Russo, that everyone's different. So I might be really strong against some things that just floor you. And that's just the nature of the animal. It's just, that's how it is. We all have, there's so many thousands and thousands of metabolic activities, and we all have our little weaknesses. That's what makes us different. That's what makes life interesting, right?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately for me, now that I'm on the older side, I feel like I have every single symptom that you just described. My job's high intensity, honestly, getting worse with the things that we're being given. So it's high stress that when you get in your late 30s, you gain that extra 10 real fast. Even though like I'm still exercising and doing all that, I feel like that sluggish brain and all that going on. So like if somebody like myself was to come to you, what do you do during your, do you do private coaching 101 or is it groups?
Well, I'm not taking on personal clients anymore, but I have a team of people who are, so, and I'm basically responsible, the supervisor. I train them all. And so people could go and get help. I could give you a URL, a domain to go look at. And by the way, we
can add that into the bio of the show so you guys can click that.
Yeah, it's ftnthrive.show / Dr. Sarah, Dr. Sarah. And so we'd love to have people go and take a look at what we do. We run 5 labs in every person. I will advise you that that's the only way to get a constellation of factors that are upstream. We're going to look at the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and the nervous system. So, and it's not real expensive. It's an investment in your health. But those 6 things, it actually spells hidden, HIDDEN. And you know what? A lot of them are hidden. So it looks, it's a great acronym, and it makes it easier to remember: hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, and so on. Now, when we get the information, it's like we've now gathered intelligence. We've really done a good job of looking at all the factors, not just tried to zero in on the one thing that's producing your immediate symptoms, like thyroid. That's too easy, and it's not working for people.
Right.
So, and as soon as you do zero in on that, it's thyroid, or it's your adrenals, or it's your, even leaky gut, and you try to heal that one thing, well, you're leaving all these other healing opportunities off the table. You're not working on those. That's the problem with reductionism, which is what modern medicine is based on. You go to you've got some gut problems, you go to a gastroenterologist, and then you say, well, I'm also feeling sad and blue, and I have no sex drive, and I can't feel the money. Oh, well, you need to go see a endocrinologist for that. So that's reductionism. My system works on every cell, every tissue, every organ, every part of the body at one time. So there's no reductionism to the best of our ability in it. So you just get better, and that thing that someone else was zeroing in on disappears. Now, the way that the program works is you run those 5 labs. There's some questionnaires to fill out. We really want to get to know each individual. There's no cohort sitting in front of us.
Because everybody's different. Yeah.
But drugs are all based on cohort studies. Like this had a little benefit for 50,000 people. Well, we don't work on 50,000. We work on that one individual, unique person. That's why we need all the data.
That's cool.
Again, I call it the constellation effect. Then we apply the general principles of health building, which are all embodied in our Dress for Health Success program. Dress, D-R-E-S-S, stands for diet, of course, has to be completely individualized. It's your metabolic type diet, which is your genetics, based on your genetics, minus your food sensitivities. Why we have to, so D, diet, R is rest. And I mean sleep plus other forms of rest, resting your brain, resting your emotions, things like that. So diet, rest. E is for exercise, obviously. Sitting is the new smoking, they say.
Yeah.
Like you've got to move your body, and it's unique for each person. Diet, rest, exercise. Now the 2 S's in Dress are stress reduction and supplementation. And right now we don't have our own brand. I've never been in the supplement business. And but I know a lot about them. So diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction is diet, I'd say, is a very strong epigenetic influence, and how you're going to be. And stress reduction or stress management is so critical because there's all these hidden stressors, food sensitivities, parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses, molds, and things like that. So we're
working
in
as
heavy
pharmacist.
metals and in radiation. And so you have DRASS. It really, when you put the program together, the only thing the client has to do is run the program.
Yeah.
Which is where our health coaches come in to help.
Right.
I want to give you room to ask another question here, but I get so excited about this.
No, it's fine. People love to hear what's going on. They don't need to hear me. They hear me enough. Believe me.
Yeah. Well, in 1998, 99, I switched gears. I was an environmentalist and conservationist, and I was environmental.
That's a huge switch.
Yeah, I studied environmental law and was working to save the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. Now I started wondering, so getting older, what's this environment doing to people, including me? I didn't want something sneaking up on me. I was really healthy, but I knew like people die of heart attacks who were perfectly healthy,
Yeah.
So I said, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to start studying, instead of just the earth and the environment, people and what's going on inside their bodies and stuff. And it was just a remarkable experience. I went to work in a wellness center, and they pretty much put me in charge of running the doctors and getting the clients and patients. And I started doing my own intakes. I became a nutritionist and a body worker, and I got about a dozen certificates in one thing or another. But the most intriguing thing was running these labs. The doctors there let me run any lab I want. I'd run 10 labs on a person, 12 labs on her. Anyone that was game to run some labs and look inside, I did that on thousands of people. I worked there 10 years.
Wow.
And so this is all back, 90 from 98 to about 2008. And no one ran that many labs. There's hardly anyone with that much experience. And I recognized patterns. And that's where this HIDDEN investigation came from. Because I wasn't a physician, I couldn't get out a prescription pad, There's no prescription pad for us. The prescription, we don't call it that, it's advice, recommendations, but it had to be holistic, based on natural things that a person can do and be in control of themselves. So I realized it's not what you do when you come in the office. It's what you do between visits. That's the medicine. That's what's going to make the changes. So I became the master of patient education and what to do in between your visits. And that's where the DRESS protocol came from. So the HIDDEN, that was just patterns I recognized from thousands of labs on thousands of people. And then the DRESS program was what I recognized that people had to be doing at home between their doctor's visits. So instead of just like, oh, here's your test result and here's your prescription, I'll see you in 3 months or 6 months. It's, here's the lab results, here's the protocol, and now here's how we're going to live for the next 3 months or 6 months at a time. And then coaching comes in there. So it's a whole different algorithm and paradigm than people are used to getting. They usually go to the doctor, I don't know what's wrong with me. And the doctor doesn't either. They just have a way to change the numbers on the paper with drugs.
I also feel like patients don't get as much attention as they used to because the doctors are turning over people like this. So I feel like healthcare is lacking in patient care in a way. So like, it's really cool that you guys have something like this to do.
And you have it too, Dr. Russo. You're, I don't know what, how much practicing you're doing right now, but the truth is that you have the same ability. We've helped a lot of doctors go across state lines. We get the labs done anywhere in the country, and we're actually in 50 different countries. That's a little hard on some of them. Yeah. But physicians are starting to use FDN, this functional diagnostic nutrition, in their backyard. I'm never saying that you don't need a physician, because you can check for emergent issues.
Right.
Ebola virus, COVID, things that'll kill you. There's things that'll kill you. And you want to get checked out. There's tumors that could just...
you can't fix those.
That's it. So we don't work on tumors directly like a physician can. They can stamp out that tumor. Well, then you're in our backyard.
Well, because then you help to figure out what may have caused that. Was it something environmental or right?
Or how to make it not come back, how to give you the lifestyle things. Because you were kind of conducive to that, that way of things breaking down, the mutations that occur, and you were susceptible to it. But the rest of it's all epigenetic. It's your lifestyle and your environment. Lifestyle and environment provide signals, and then your genetics pick up those signals and will express one way or another. They could go the good way or the bad way.
I'd rather go the good way.
Want to go the good way. That's like, I used to watch Gunsmoke, and Marshall Dillon would say to the bad guy, you want to do this the hard way or the easy way?
It's true. It's very true. And it's like very cool that you've been doing this for 20 years, and this different, I feel like that's what we like to talk about on the show, different ways to treat different ailments or other ways to go about things. So it's really cool that you were able to tell us about this. I'd love to chat with you more. We're going to have you back on and talk about the adrenals sometime, because that's another thing that I like to talk about. And I feel like it's contributing to people's weight gain and all that stuff. Also, did you notice I forgot my dog was here? Did you see him in the background snoring?
No, I didn't. Oh, okay. Isn't that wonderful? Well, we all love our pets. Pets need love too, obviously.
We need a dietitian. Like he's one of those like animals, no matter what he eats. We've had him on several diets. He's just chubby. And now he might have a slipped disc in his neck. And I feel like there's a better way to treat it than surgery. So we're looking into that. It's going to be a tough week dealing with that. So that's why he's here, trying to keep him quiet.
Well, it raises an interesting question for the health consumer, if you will. They will drop 5-10 grand on their dog in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But they won't spend it on themselves.
Exactly.
They're always going to find a better way. But if something's wrong with your dog, man, you take him in and the vet says, well, I could put him to sleep, or for 7 grand, I could give him an operation. Here's my credit card, people say, whereas with themselves, they know no one's going to put them to sleep. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
So they figure, why, they have a hard time investing. So if I were to leave you with a thought, it's that your health is your greatest asset. You can't be happy and live a life of joy if you're not healthy. Would you agree with that, doctor?
100%. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I'm like, if I was to ever I'm just saying get cancer, it would be just a miserable experience. Just like sitting around. You don't have your health. You can't live the way you want. And that's why it's really important, I think, like to reach out to people such as you to look at different angles. Like Jen, she does the, where she can tell if toxins are causing cancer and stuff like that. So there's so many different things.
Yeah. Well, I would invite your listeners to go to fdnthrive.show/Dr. Sarah and check it out, because we have helped tens of thousands of people. Again, I started teaching in 2008, and I've deputized an army of people who to do what we do, what I've been talking about here. And they're very caring. The number one requisite to work with me is you have to care about people and want to do some good in the world. And you also have to be willing to walk the talk. So all of my graduates have done the work on themselves. It's part of the course.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, thank you for spending a Monday morning with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Hope everyone had a great weekend.
Yeah, I know. And everybody, if you're interested, you can reach out. We're going to put the URL for Reed and reach out. And this guy knows what he's talking about. Reed, we hope to have you back soon. So nice to meet you.
Okay, Sarah, you too. Thanks.
All right, have a good day. Bye-bye. This is Sessions with Sarah on Helium Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.